Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, January 13th at 2:18 p.m. I worked until 6 a.m. I'm tired. But a second major coaching change in professional sports has just been made. Yesterday, we saw how the Columbus Blue Jackets moved on from head coach Dean Evison. And now today, the NFL has another longtime head coach now leaving their organization. Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin, after 19 seasons, 2 trips to the Super Bowl, and a Super Bowl win, has officially announced that he's stepping down as Pittsburgh Steelers head coach, as official per Adam Schefter. This is a big change, obviously. He's been in Pittsburgh since 19 years ago, whatever year that was. I believe he was hired a year after John Harbaugh joined Baltimore, so it's another big AFC North coaching change, but Tomlin was great for the Steelers for a long, long time. He brought them many great things, and, despite how Pittsburgh fans felt about Tomlin at the end of his days, he's a legendary coach in the city of Pittsburgh, and he brought them many great things. That being said, I feel like after the 2017 playoff loss is when things really went downhill for the Steelers, and it was in many, many ways. Obviously, 2017 was the beginning of Pittsburgh's, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe six game playoff losing streak. It started with their 45-42 loss at home to the Jaguars, but even then, that game wasn't as close as the final score suggested. The Jaguars were dominating that game at many points. And that's when it really started. We all know what happened to the Steelers the next year, 2018. The saga with Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown running his way out of town, drama just filling the organization top to bottom. And all that drama took a Super Bowl contender to missing the playoffs. 2019 again, missed the playoffs. While Tomlin did put some good work together that season, it fell apart at the end. 2020. Started off the season 11-0, had a few rough losses, but made the playoffs. Went down the Cleveland Browns 28-0 at the end of the first quarter, and then went on to lose the game 48-37. And even then, the final score was nowhere near as close. The final score was a lot closer than the game actually was. It was a blowout, and the Steelers scored a lot of touchdowns in garbage time. Next season, Steelers make the playoffs, get demolished by the Chiefs in Arrowhead. 2022, they miss the playoffs. 2023, they make it, get routed by the Bills at Highmark in Buffalo. 2024, got a great start under a regime with Russell Wilson. Finished the year 10-7. Got demolished by the Ravens 28-14 in the wild card again. And now we have what happened to the Steelers last night. Despite bringing in a lot of talent over the offseason, same story. 10-7 season, demolished by the Texans, and a lot of it due to your own doing. Lots of turnovers. C.J. Stroud fumbled the ball 6 times, and it didn't even matter, because the Steelers' offense never found the end zone, while the Texans' defense found the end zone multiple times. Houston wins 30-6. Pittsburgh's playoff run is once again a one and done, as it had been for many times before. And now, I wake up to the official ESPN notification on my phone that, per Adam Schefter, Mike Tomlin was officially stepping down as the Steelers' head coach. And it's not just ESPN. This is a big, monumental change. And while I know a lot of people knew that this was probably going to be Tomlin's last year in Pittsburgh, he's still the longest tenured head coach now that John Harbaugh was gone. He was the longest reigning tenured coach in the NFL, at least as far as time in one place goes. Now, again, coming from me, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. I have nothing but respect for Mike Tomlin. What he did with the city of Pittsburgh, keeping them competitive for so long, was simply unbelievable. And while it came to the dismay of the Browns so many times, he's a great head coach, and I respect the hell out of him for it. But I feel like we really learned with how Pete Carroll's days in Seattle came to an end, how the season went with him with Las Vegas. Sometimes coaches just run out of gas, where their schemes and structures just simply don't work in the NFL anymore, and it's time to move on. We saw the Ravens had to learn this with John Harbaugh, the Browns had to learn this with Stefanski, and now the Steelers are learning this with Mike Tomlin. At the end of the day, for as good as a coach was in the glory days, eventually their time in an organization expires, and a change needs to be made. While I do kind of feel like Tomlin's expiration date was years ago, they finally realized we weren't going to win anymore, Tomlin. While he was a great coach, simply time to move on. And now the Steelers move on. That being said, Steelers obviously have to play games next season. Where do we go from here? First of all, based on the fact that it was Tomlin stepping down from a role that he had been in for 19 years, I do expect him to be a head coach in the NFL again. I'm not too expecting it to be next season. I feel like with how things ended, all the drama about the team, the way he went out, with people just wanting him out desperately, I feel like he is going to give it a little bit of time before he rejoins the NFL. Maybe he'll be on TV for a year. Maybe he'll just take the year off. Should probably have more than enough finances in order to do that, but I feel like he's definitely going to take a season off, and then after that, he'll reconsider his options. Again, I do fully believe that we'll see Tomlin on the sidelines again in the NFL. It's not going to be for the Steelers, obviously, but we'll see Tomlin again. We just got to give him some time, just regroup, figure out if he wants to keep doing this or not, and then we'll see Tomlin back. Whether that's college or the NFL, I don't know. But I do expect to see Tomlin back on the sideline at some point. What does this mean for the Steelers? Well, they need to find a new head coach. And now they're joining the head coaching search somewhat fairly late in the cycle, because we've seen a lot of teams like the Browns, the Falcons, Giants, the Titans, the Raiders, the Ravens. We're seeing all these teams who had already fired their coaches, who are now looking for their new head coach. A lot of whom have already conducted thorough interviews with a lot of coaches, and now the Steelers are having to jump into the back end of that. They're going to have to search extensively, and they're going to have to be aggressive too. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these coaches have already interviewed somewhere. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of these head coaches may already know where they're going, and it just hasn't been announced yet. But obviously, at this point with the Steelers, you have to give guys offers that they're going to be forced to say no to. Give them really big deals. Make them feel like they're kind of forced to come to Pittsburgh, and that them not going to Pittsburgh would then basically be them forcing themselves to say no. You have to get crazy here, because at the end of the day, so many of these coaches have already interviewed at other places. Some of these coaches are probably set in stone on the fact that if the organization wants me to go there, I'm going. Knowing that they're having to join that super late, really, it's not terribly late. The season's still going on. There's already a lot of other teams who are looking for head coach. The Dolphins. I forgot to mention the Dolphins looking for a new head coach. And the Steelers are not just jumping out on the back end of that. They're going to have to be aggressive. They're going to have to offer a lot of money. Or they could hire within. Arthur Smith used to be head coach. He wasn't good, but I had a feeling that when they brought him in, it wasn't just to be a coordinator. But they had a feeling Tomlin may be limited and that they were going to need a head coach. Arthur Smith's time in Atlanta wasn't good. He's at least been a head coach. As far as Pittsburgh, what Pittsburgh does with their future, I really don't know. If firing Tomlin is just the beginning of them just purging everything and beginning to rebuild, they could do that. They could do what they've done for many years and just try to rebuild on the fly and be competitive again next season. We don't know. But as of now, Tomlin's gone. They're going to need a new head coach. And this is just another of what's really been a long purge of NFL coaches being fired this season. And again, the Steelers want to be able to get the best coach available. They're going to have to be aggressive. Give guys really big offers. Give them offers that they have to say no to. I mean, have to say no to, like force themselves to say no to. Like, give them big offers. But, yeah, it's a big change. Crazy few weeks. Within a few weeks span, John Harbaugh, a guy who had been the Ravens head coach for nearly 2 decades, gets fired. And now we see Tomlin, a guy who was with the Pittsburgh Steelers for only a year shy of 2 decades, choosing to step down after another disappointing season. Pittsburgh's going to be aggressive again, but we'll see. I really have no idea what the Steelers are going to choose to go with here. They still have a lot of guys locked on to contracts for another few years. it does kind of feel like the Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers are kind of close on coming back for another season next year. But they're an old core. They haven't had success in a while. Maybe the best thing for them to do is to officially blow it up and rebuild. We will see. As of now, once again, Tomlin's gone. Steelers looking for a new head coach after yet another disappointing performance in the playoffs. So yep, that's gonna do it. If you have any comments about Tomlin, what you think about the moves, let me know in the comments. I look forward to reading your comments every time. Thank you for the popularity of my last video. It did really good. I'm very appreciative for all you who watched. And yeah, major coaching change happened in my NHL team yesterday, and now probably the biggest head coaching change of the year, and Mike Tomlin leaving Pittsburgh just happened. So, yep, I'll do it. See ya.